Welcome back to the Medical Board Exam Experience with Dr. Kwafu. Just recently, the board in charge of organizing the USMLE released an information that the clinical section of the USMLE, that is the Step 2 CS, has been suspended for 12 to 18 months. I released a video explaining the possible impact of this decision on international medical graduates seeking to practice in the US. If you did not watch this video, I will leave the link under this YouTube video so you can check it out. Now that they have suspended these exams, what is the way forward? I'm going to analyze things from my point of view. Now there is this TOEFL exams that is used to test for one's English proficiency, and I believe the first part that I mentioned, the spoken English proficiency part of the CS, can be replaced by the TOEFL, and so the board can ask us to take the TOEFL exams to replace the spoken English proficiency part of CS. As I mentioned in that video, just yesterday on the 17th of June, the board released information that they are going to use an English language proficiency assessment to replace the CS. However, the board gave 5 alternative pathways and eligibility requirements that one has to pass through to qualify to take this English language proficiency assessment. Today, I'm going to take us through all these pathways and those who are qualified to take this English proficiency assessment. Viewers, I encourage anyone watching me at this moment to kindly subscribe to this channel. I interview doctors who have successfully passed their medical board exams. You can recommend this channel to anyone who is preparing to write any board exams. Or if you are watching me and you have also successfully passed any medical board exams or even failed any medical board exams and would like to share your experience for the world or for anyone preparing to learn from you, kindly contact me on my Facebook page, Instagram, or leave a comment under this YouTube video. Viewers, just as I stated earlier, the main alternative for the suspended CS is an English language proficiency assessment. However, the board released 5 pathways that one has to pass through one of these pathways to be eligible to write or to participate in this English language proficiency assessment. The board also gave a general eligibility for all these pathways, that if you do not qualify generally in this general eligibility, you cannot consider any of the pathways. First of all, these are the people who can consider the pathways. 1. Anyone who have not already passed Step 2 CS. If you have not passed Step 2 CS, you can consider the 5 pathways. 1. If you have not been disqualified by ECFMG from pursuing the ECFMG certification. 2. If you have not been disqualified by USMLE from taking a step or step component from August 1st, 2020 to January 31st, 2020. 4. If you have not failed a USMLE step or step component, Step 1, Step 2 CK, CS, twice or more, then you also qualify to consider any of these 5 pathways. And lastly, if you have taken or been registered for any USMLE step or step component since January 1st, 2020, then you also qualify to consider any of these 5 pathways. Now I'm going to mention the pathways that if you do fall within this pathway, then you can consider to write the English test. Pathway 1. If the applicant has held full or unrestricted license to practice in any country since January 1st, 2015. So any licensed doctor or applicant is eligible to take part in this English test. Also, if the license or the registration has not been subject to disciplinary action, though you may have a license to practice, if that license has ever been restricted or subjected to disciplinary action, then you cannot use this pathway to write the English proficiency test. Pathway 2 states that if the applicant has passed any standardized clinical skills exams for medical license, the board stated some of these exams that are acceptable by ECFMG. One is the PLAB exams, PLAB 2. 2. The Australian Clinical Examination Exams, Part 2. The Medical Council of Canada Qualifying Examination, Part 2. Medical Council of New Zealand Clinical Examination. Medical Council of Ireland Pre-Registration Examination System, Level 3. And if the applicant had these exams on or after July 1st, 2018, then he or she is qualified to take the English language proficiency test. Pathway 3, that is if pathway 1 is not favorable and pathway 2 is not favorable, then you also look at pathway 3. The pathway 3 states that if your medical school is accredited by agency recognized by World Federation of Medical Education, that is WFME, if your medical school is recognized by WFME, then you are also qualified to write this examination. However, the date of your graduation must be on or after January 1st, 2018. So even if your medical school falls under WFME recognition and you graduated before 2018, you are not qualified to use this pathway to write these exams. Also, if your medical school falls under WFME and you graduated on or after January 1st, 2018, you need an authorized school official person to attest that you have some clinical skills. Probably during your medical education you underwent some internship or any clinical experience you had. You need an official in your school to attest to the facts that you have been exposed to such an experience. Now, if pathway 1, 2, and 3 are all not favorable, the board also gave pathway 4, and the pathway 4 states that the medical school, if your medical school participates in US Federal Student Loan Program, that is, if your medical school is currently a participant in the US Federal Student Loan Program, and also you graduated on or after January 1st, 2018, then you can also be qualified to take part in the English test. However, you will also need an authorized school official to attest that you have been exposed to clinical skills experience. The final pathway that the board released is that if your medical school issues degree jointly with a US medical school accredited by Liaison Committee on Medical Education, that is LCME, the board listed two main schools. If you attend any of these schools or attended any of these schools, then you will also be qualified to take part in the English exams. That is the Weill Cornell Medicine in Qatar, the Duke University, that is the National University of Singapore Medical School. Even if you attended any of these schools, your date of graduation must be on or after January 1st, 2018. And also, you also need an authorized school official to attest that you have an exposure in the clinical skills. Viewers, you may fall in any of these pathways, but you will not be qualified to write the English proficiency exams if you have already passed the Step 2 CS. 2. If you have ever been disqualified by ECFMG from pursuing the ECFMG certification. 3. If you have ever been disqualified by USMLE from taking a step or a step component from August 1st, 2020 to January 31st, 2021. 4. If you have failed a USMLE step or a step component, that is, if you have ever failed a Step 1, Step 2 CK, or Step 2 CS 2 or more times, then you will not be qualified to write the English test, even though you fall within the pathways I mentioned earlier. And lastly, if you have not been registered for a USMLE step or step component since January 1st, 2018, then you will also not be qualified to take the English language proficiency assessment. So these are the pathways and the eligibility requirements that the applicants need to go through to get qualified to participate in the English proficiency test. Personally, I do not know how the English proficiency assessment score could be used to compete with someone who have passed the CS. Also, I believe this test, as the board rightly said, that this English test is valid for just 1 year, and so I believe it is made purposely for those who are taking part in 2021 March, and that anybody who will take part in March after 2021, or anybody who will take part in residency marching from 2022 will be required to take the actual CS exams. And so I will encourage anyone who has taken any of the step exams, example the CK and the Step 1 or the Step 1, and is thinking of writing the English proficiency now, I will encourage the person to write the other remaining tests or the exams instead of writing this English proficiency now, because it is valid for just 1 year, and writing it now you will not be ready to partake in the 2021 March, and the tests will be expired and it will be a waste of time. This is what I brought for us today. Please don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notifications so you'll be one of the first people to see my next interview. Thank you very much for watching.